All right, guys, we're starting something new. The Charter of the United Nations. Charter of the United Nations and Statute of the International Court of Justice. San Francisco, 1945. I printed this out. So we have the Charter of the United Nations and Statute of the International Court of Justice. San Francisco, 1945. You guys don't think San Francisco is powerful when it comes to history? Tripping. San Francisco, New York. So this is the Charter of the United Nations. So we're going to do about 20 minutes, cut it in parts. So it begins, Charter of the United Nations. We, the peoples of the United Nations, determine to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has brought untold sorrow to mankind, and to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights. So this is what they're saying. Succeed generations from the scourge of war. This is after the World War II. United Nations came after the World War II. The World Health Organization came after World War II. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization came after World War II. All in the mid to late 1940s. So we, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has brought untold sorrow to mankind, and to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights and the dignity and worth of the human person and the equal rights of men and women and of nations large and small, and to establish conditions under which justice and respect for the obligations arising from treaties and other sources of international law can be maintained, to promote social progress and better standards of life and larger freedom. And for these ends to practice tolerance and live together in peace and with one another as good neighbors, and to unite our strength to maintain international peace and security, and to ensure by the acceptance of principles and the institution of methods that armed force shall not be used save in the common interest, and to employ international machinery for the promotion of the economic and social advancement of all peoples, to employ international machinery, have resolved to combine our efforts to accomplish these aims. Accordingly, our respective governments, through representatives assembled in the city of San Francisco, who have exhibited their full powers found to be in good and due form, have agreed to the present Charter of the United Nations, and do hereby establish an international organization to be known as the United Nations. Interesting, right? I guess this is the first proclamation. I'll keep going, 20 minutes. Chapter 1, Purposes and Principles. Purposes and Principles. Chapter 1, Article 1. Article 1, the purposes of the United Nations are: number 1, to maintain international peace and security, and to that end, to take effective collective measures for the prevention and removal of threats to the peace and for the suppression of acts of aggression or other breaches of the peace, and to bring about by peaceful means and in conformity with the principles of justice and international law, adjustment or settlement of international disputes or situations which might lead to a breach of peace. Number 2, to develop friendly relations among nations based on respect for the principle of equal rights and self-determination of peoples, and to take other appropriate measures to strengthen universal peace. 3, to achieve international cooperation in solving international problems of an economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian character, and in promoting and encouraging respect for human rights and for fundamental freedom for all without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion. And 4, to be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations in the attainment of these common ends. Article 2 of Chapter 1. The organization and its members, in pursuit of the purposes stated in Article 1, shall act in accordance with the following principles. The organization is based on the principle of the sovereign equality of all its members. 2. All members, in order to ensure to all of them the rights and benefits resulting from membership, shall fulfill in good faith the obligations assumed by them in accordance with the present charter. So just, do your part. So number 3, all members shall settle their international disputes by peaceful means in such a manner that international peace and security and justice are not endangered. International peace and security and justice are not endangered. Number 4, all members shall refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state or in any other manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations. Number 5, all members shall give the United Nations every assistance in action it takes in accordance with the present charter and shall refrain from giving assistance to any state against which the United Nations is taking preventative or enforcement action. So refrain from giving assistance to the enemy. But it's not. So number 6, the organization shall ensure that states which are not members of the UN act in accordance with these principles so far as may be necessary for the maintenance of international peace and security. So the organization shall ensure that states which are not members of the United Nations act in accordance with these principles. What if they don't want to, though? That's kind of weird, right? What if they don't want to? That's kind of like questionable. Number 7, nothing contained in the present charter shall authorize the United Nations to intervene in matters which are essentially within the domestic jurisdiction of any state or shall require the members to submit such matters to settlement under the present charter. But this principle shall not prejudice the application of enforcement measures under Chapter 7. I guess we'll get there. So that was the beginning in Chapter 1. Purposes and principles of the United Nations. We'll just say the intro proclamation, Chapter 1, purposes and principles. For this video, guys, I'll break it down. The way this is formatted, I'm able to break it down by chapter or charters, right? Some are longer than others. Peace, y'all.